All right, so first things first. Hi, Joe. How are you?
All good, thanks, Robin. How are you, mate?
I'm not too bad at all. Now, you just before the camera went on talked about well, getting prepared to go on tour. What are the feelings at the moment?
Good, man. Super excited for the album to come out this week and get on tour and push the album and stuff. We're nervous because it's the biggest tour we've done and the most shows we've done in a row, but like by loads. So hoping just physically stay okay and the voice doesn't go and all that. So but it should be sound.
Has this album been a long time coming? If you just think about everything that you've been through musically throughout your career,
Yeah.
how long, how much of a, I don't know, a journey has it been to get to this point?
Well, it's been 16 years really, but we've been working on like the big special idea came about in 2020 in the lockdowns, and then we pretty much like it started as an album idea really. Start the band to do this album,
Okay.
and because of the lockdowns and stuff, we pretty much had the album done before we started gigging really.
Mm.
At least in its the backbone of it and stuff, and like an early version of it because we needed the tracks to play live. And yeah, so it's about 4 years coming now. We've been working on it. So yeah, like
So
look
you must be
to get
pretty
it.
happy that you get to release it now and get to share it
Oh
with
yeah,
people.
totally, man. Yeah, proper. I just want to, I want to move on creatively as well. I want to stop thinking
Sure.
about the fucking.
No, I can imagine. And also that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time when you were thinking about this band and this album, you weren't in the best of places. Am I right in saying that?
No, no, it's right, man. I mean, most of us weren't really where we were in the lockdown, but lockdown aside, yeah, it's an ongoing thing, but I'd, issues with depression and anxiety disorders and stuff over the years. As you know, it's a big part of the album, what the album's going on about, and
Mm.
connecting that to what we see socially and stuff, and like the political discontent of like pretty much everyone at
Sure.
the moment. So, yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My wife is looking after me, and yeah, that gave me
No,
a bit of.
and well, we'll get to the support the both of you, I suppose, get from your wives. But just going back to that, well, those kind of thoughts and feelings, because everyone, I suppose, has them in certain degrees, but not everybody
Yeah.
can shape them into kind of something creative or write a song about it or something. So when did you start putting thoughts to paper and kind of seeing if you can steer this dark cloud in a sense into something positive?
Um, I think subconsciously that's what I always did. Started playing guitar when I was like 13 and started writing songs pretty much straight away. Like, that was why I wanted to pick up a guitar, was to write tunes. And yeah, I suppose subconsciously it's always been the main reason when I look back. My mates used to take the piss out of me for having depressing songs. And
Okay.
I was like, but I suppose learned over the years how to recognize it more. It's a big part of the album to realize what I'm actually doing and stuff. And yeah, since we're doing the spoken word thing and using my own accent in that, and
Mm.
I think more of my actual personality comes through in those sorts of things. So yeah, talking about that with Big Special has been like more of a more creative and cathartic, I think, than before, where my older stuff used to be a bit more like wallowing in it.
Mm.
Whereas now we can use that kind of natural sense of humor and stuff that comes from the area and all that sort of stuff that to just not explain it, but like yeah, express it more. We always say like the songs are emotional reactions rather than answers or like planned out. They're not advice or anything. You know what I mean? It's just emotional reactions and stuff, and yeah, being able to put that all into the song now is great. And then when we play live, that's like the big cathartic thing. Then is
Mm.
taking those subjects and songs and like being able to belt them out and in a room where in turn it creates joy instead. You know what I mean? It's that we're all together and we all shout, and I think it creates that like connection. Because, like you say, we all deal with those things in our own forms, and I think people can recognize that the personal side of stuff is actually the universal side of stuff, and we can
Mm.
relate to it in our own ways. We don't have to have the same experience to have the same feelings.
No, definitely. And I believe that there's something you said about, well, the entire album. Maybe I don't know if this is a good question, but after listening to the album, one of kind of Pink Floyd's lines that always stuck out to me is from Time, hanging on in quiet desperation. It's the English way.
Yeah.
And that kind of feeling, because you do discuss kind of the politics and then kind of just keeping your head down, going to work, the grind of life, all that stuff. So and then on top of that, my dad is from Birmingham, so I kind of know the
Oh,
area a little
cool.
bit.
Oh,
So
wicked. That's great.
how does all of that kind of seep into to what you write and what you try to kind of convey to
I
the
think,
people?
I think anyone who's like writing honestly and personally, like where they're from, is gonna show up in their music or whatever art they
Mm,
make it. Um, so I think that's what, it's not like it wasn't like a planned thought to like be like, oh, it's gonna be like that. The main thought was to be like, how does the personal thing and your own experience relate to people who don't have that experience or are from a completely different place or something like that. But I think it shines through a bit more with our album because there's not a fat lot of stuff that is from where we're from, or
sure.
the Birmingham or like the Black Country especially is not like really represented in like media, you know what I mean, or like at least popular media and stuff. So I think people hearing the accent as opposed to the accents they're used to hearing in music is a way of it. Think people thinking more of the areas coming through the music is just because it's a different sort of accent. But
Mm,
um, but yeah, it's definitely there. Like we called it Postindustrial Hometown Blues to like make a point of it, saying like, but it's not specifically about this place to the listener. You know what I mean? It's not like a lesson in the Black Country or Birmingham. It's trying to say like, look, it's if I'm singing about me, I'm singing about you as well. You know what I mean? This is everywhere.
mm. And then getting into how you use your voice a little bit, because it's very interesting the number of ways that you use your voice on the album, and even the accent. I believe my dad always laughs about this, that the Brummie accent has always been voted one of the lower ones, or at least
Yeah, yeah,
posh ones, if that makes
yeah.
sense. So
We always
even
get
that
called.
decision.
Yeah. We
Oh,
always get
God.
that. We get the worst, but also the friendliest is what we get.
The way it resonates with people, I suppose that must be very validating in a way.
Yeah, it's nice, man. It's the one of the joys of my life has been listening to music. And when you can see yourself in that music or learn, learn something you didn't know you were thinking and stuff like that, has always been helpful, in life and stuff. And I think if people get that from our music, then that's like a massive. It's probably it's the biggest compliment, really. And yeah, man, like the work, like the working classness and stuff. I'd, we're not trying to use that as to sell ourselves and stuff, which I think some people do, which I'm not a big fan of, and I'm not a big
Mm,
fan of when that working class artists' work is expected to be about that for it to
mm,
anywhere. You know what I mean? But again, like we say, it's just about writing from an honest perspective of my own life and just like what observe as well, and how those things relate. So it will include those things. You know what I mean? And it's like that's life. So that's what that there. It's not there's no like calculated way of being like, how does this sound working class, or how does this sound like it's about mental health, or how does this sound authentic? I think if you're asking them questions, then it's probably not going to be that authentic. You've got to
mm.
just write from. Well, it's almost cheesy to say. It's that old thing, and the old advice is write what you know, and but it's good advice.
How do you kind of navigate when you are employing spoken word, when you go into more of a belt, when you go more into kind of there's
Uh,
very separate, or not separate, but
yeah.
different ways of
Well, I've
using your voice.
been a singer for years. Like, you know, that's what I always used to do, like sing with the guitar and stuff. And
Mm,
I suppose like the idea of Big Special was like wanting to incorporate like the poetry, the spoken word stuff, but I didn't want it to just be like poetry with music, with poetry to music. Do you know what I mean? Like a
right.
backdrop. So it was about like practicing and how to like use, like, you know, like I used to write folk songs mainly, and it's like using that them sort of structures with these new sort of elements. And so not having the spoken stuff, you know, having doing the spoken word stuff like allows me to do a lot more, say a lot more, you know, in general. So it's one of them, and it's like usually it's like verses spoken and then singing on the choruses, that tends to just make sense. But also don't want to like trap myself into like every song being a spoken word chorus and a singing, sorry, spoken word verse and a
Sure.
singing chorus. Oh, you know, already we've tried to mix that up, and there's some songs that are just singing and some songs that are just spoken. You know, I think having a set of tools means you can use them whenever rather than trying to use all your tools every time. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think everything's about the build and release of tension, isn't it? So um, I don't want to just give everything away every time, because then you create no tension in your music. And I like albums that are a piece of their own, you know, not just a selection of, not just a playlist, you know. So you got to think of it like a TV series in a way, as in like each episode has got to create its own and release its own tension, but you've also got to do it across the whole album,
Mm.
uh, rather than just each song doing it. Do you know what I mean? Every time. So yeah, so it's just about like balancing out, really, I suppose. Again, like we don't think about it too much, don't plan out too much whilst we're writing, you know. Like to get
Sure.
like a lump of stuff down and then edit and see how it works and stuff like that, rather than try and plan out what I'm gonna do beforehand. I think you get much better stuff if you just do what's coming and
Mm.
then see how it works afterwards. You know what I mean? You know, I like editing. You know, I think that's I used to be dead against it. You know, when I used to do folk stuff and that, I used to think first take, no messing, all
Mm.
that sort of stuff. Whereas my philosophy's changed over the years from working with Mike, our producer. I just thought, no, man, like put the work in. You know, it's like you've got time, you've got some resources here. So, you know, make the best thing you can.
No, I think that's a very interesting point. And listening to the album, it's also very. I think you managed to walk that line well, where it's a diverse album. There sonically, there you have a broad sonic palette, but it all fits together. And it's partly because of your voice, I suppose, and partly because of the kind of more industrial type sonic, I don't know, layer
Yeah.
underneath. But what would you attribute that to? Because you do walk that, as I say, you do walk that line well, where it does fit together, but it's
Yeah.
also quite diverse.
Yeah, it was a big thinking point for us with like building the band and everything was not wanting to be a genre band, you know what I mean? Not wanting to be a specific thing. Um, you know, get inspiration from artists like Tom Waits and is a good example, as in he's someone who, you know, you can recognize who Tom Waits is regardless of what he does. You know, he can do a soft piano ballad or some big experimental German polka thing, and
Mm,
you know it's Tom Waits because he has a developed voice, not just the sound of his vocal, but as in like the voice of his work. And
sure.
I feel like a big thing for us was, and having that time like making the album before we started gigging and trying to get out there, was the main thing was we were developing our central voice, you know, of what we want to be and what we want to do, which I feel like then that frees you up then creatively and genre wise, you know. So I feel like now through my voice and Cal's playing and just the way we've started doing stuff, I feel like we can go forward now, you know, and doing an album that's diverse from the first album and everything. I feel like we can move forward into like any direction really, because
Mm.
we've built a strong foundation, like in what our voice is, you know.
No, definitely. And I think, well, I think the same is true for kind of the sentiment of some of the songs, because yes, there is some lamenting of the way the world is, of course, but there's also a hope and some humor in it, and that
Yeah.
balancing act is, has that always been important to you in your songwriting?
That come along more with the big special stuff. I think
Okay.
my older stuff, I used to be quite serious, and I used to like separate everything. I'd always write poetry, but I wouldn't include it in my music. And I always loved, I always had a dark sense of humor, and always loved humor and stuff like that. But I felt like like a younger mind with it. He's like, yeah, but I'm being serious on this song, so I have to be serious and poetic, and
Mm,
it has to be this. Whereas I think with Big Special and using my own accent and the spoken stuff is naturally you know the humor comes through because that's how we speak about stuff around here. You know, if you're going to be serious about something, you best make a joke as well because no one wants to be seen as too self-serious or and stuff like that. So I think for the listener, it's a spoonful of sugar. You know what I mean? Again, that is life. You know, no one. You know, you always laugh at the darkness. You know, there's that old saying, ain't
mm,
there? If I don't laugh, I'll cry. So it's like,
sure.
yeah. So I think that's a big part of the album. Really is again, you know, I use it sparingly. I use it when it comes up naturally. Like I don't think, oh, this one should be funny, and then this one won't be funny, and blah blah blah. It's like when you're writing from the perspective of whatever the song is looking at. It'll come through naturally or not, you know. Like shit, I think Shit House is the good example of that. Is that it's
Sure.
about a mental breakdown, but if you know, I don't want the song to sound like I'm going, oh, a mental breakdown. You know what I mean? It's like it's about catharsis and just like emotional reaction to something, you know. Just trying to be honest with that. So I think the humor is just part of that, really, and that's a big one that comes from like my environment and stuff and growing up is that is to humor and that like black humor, dark.
Mm.
Can't, discuss serious stuff without having a laugh. You know what I mean?
No, that
Gets you through.
I think it's also somewhat of a generational thing, because I notice as I'm getting older now, the younger generations kind of feel weird when when there's laughing and kind of a certain
Yeah,
joviality around very dark things.
yeah, it's right. Yeah, yeah. Whereas I think, yeah, man, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh, otherwise you've lost. You know what I mean? Fuck.
Well, it's as you say. Otherwise, just sit in a corner and cry, and who wants to do that? So it's no,
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
definitely makes sense. But so
You've done enough
for
of that.
instance, but yeah, but for instance, for the Birds, and especially I like the song "The Closer Dig" as well. That even the
Oh, thank you.
music sounds somewhat hopeful, especially with
Yeah,
Dig,
man.
the way the horns come in and kind of what you are saying, and
I think
the
hope's definitely always been there in anything I've made, really. And I think, but again, it's not like a manufactured hope, but
mm,
a lot of stuff that's like, you know, forces hope is, oh, I'm moaning about this thing, but look, it's actually good or something. And I didn't want hope in this to be like that. You know, it's hope for the sake of hope. It's like this is all shit. We're all feeling that it's shit. But you either carry on or you fucking don't. You know what I mean? It's more so that like a shrug of hope, as in like, you know, we share this. We shouldn't be up against each other all the time. We should just recognize it in each other and just have a bit of empathy. You know, small steps of like just connecting on a very small scale and not fighting each other all the time. And recognize that your fight is against something bigger and not each other, and then
mm,
move forward. You know what I mean? Move forward anyway, regardless. You got, you know, everywhere's shit. It's shit all around you. So you're gonna have to walk through some shit, you know. And I
yeah.
think that that's the hope on it is that like it's not like a grand gesture of hope or looking at a bright light in the future or anything that's clear. You know, that light's dim, but it's like what are you gonna do? You're gonna just not do it then. You're gonna just not move forward.
No, I think that's a very true thing, where suffering is in a way part of an important part of life, even.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
and it's inescapable, as you say. So it's one of those things where you better wrap your head around that it's not going
Yeah.
to be nice and fun all the time, and just yeah, keep moving forward, as you say.
Yeah, man.
Um, The last thing, I don't know if it's a good topic to talk about, but it kind of Dust Off Start Again kind of made me think of that. When I was in college, there was this notion of the deserving poor, that if you are in this, living in certain circumstances, well,
Yeah,
that just means that you didn't work hard enough. And obviously, we can look around our environment and see that that's not true. But how do
yeah,
you think, because that song kind of looks at how other people look down upon certain groups. Can you talk a little bit about that
yeah,
song, how that kind of
yeah, man. That's it.
became a thing?
That's the main theme of the opener as well. Black Country Gothic is
Mm,
that judgment within the working class as well, and you get sold an idea from a young age. I'm sure everywhere, not
yeah,
just this
yeah.
country. You get sold an idea of we live in a meritocracy, whereas you will get what you work for, and you're told that, and your whole life, and that's the best thing to tell the fucking masses when you want them to fucking work hard for you and not get anything in return. You
Mm,
know, it's the same way the the big famous preachers work in America is that
just right.
when the miracle doesn't work, it's because your faith isn't strong enough. And it's the same here. So when you don't get what you need from your work, you must not be working hard enough. And it's all a lie, you know what I mean? We don't live in a meritocracy. So much wealth is inherited, and some of the big corporation stuff is like passed down and all that sort of stuff. And
Sure.
if that was true, any fucking cleaner in the world would be a millionaire. You know what I mean? And so that's a big part of the Black Country Gothic. And yeah, in Dust Off Start Again is the the hollow voice of like business, and corporations and stuff. It's or any like authority really not caring about you or your life as long as you get to work and do your hours. You know what I mean? Make your the shit you've got to make for the boss.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, just is that like it's that mixture of the boss speaking in the second verse, going basically saying, "I don't fucking care, man. You've had, I'll give you some time for your health, but you've got to get back to work because fucking hell." Um,
mm.
and even that last line on that bit is kind of saying like, don't kill yourself because I need you as a worker.
Yeah, and I
Um,
wrote that line down. We are just don't die, lad. I need you on Monday. So it's
yeah, yeah,
kind of
exactly. Yeah. So, and then like the first part, another again, I always switch perspective in the songs. I never like make it. I don't particularly make it clear when I'm switching perspective. But like
mm,
the first verse is me, is someone going like, man, I can do all this stuff and I do have a lot of stuff to be happy about, but I want a fucking house, man. You know what I mean? I do all this stuff. I want a house and that people try their whole lives to like get what is basically a human right. You know what I mean? And yeah, and yeah, the meritocracy is a lie. It doesn't exist. And yeah, I think the working class are the oppressed of the world, ain't they? So it's just a little look on that, like looking inward on me and how that's pissed me off and how
mm.
discontent I felt with that sort of stuff and just again, if I'm feeling that, then there's gonna be fucking millions of others who do as well.
Sure. And this is the final question. It might be a little bit pretentious then, but do you think music has a role to play then in kind of cultivating a connection between people and kind of a sense of understanding?
I think so, yeah. Like especially on an individual basis, you know what I mean? I think um maybe not as a like a room full of people hearing a message and then acting accordingly, but I think that room full of people will individually take something from it that relates to them, and I think that's the point of the album really is that I'm saying that your deepest, most personal thing that makes you you is also what connects you to someone else as well. It's not these thin, thinly spread, broad ideas that are the big relatable things. That's just stuff that happens and that we all know about. To relate to something properly is to be deep and personal in your own experience, and how someone else can look at that and go, that, even subconsciously, like just empathize, just go, that reminds me of me or of someone else. And I think if art is doing its job, the it's presenting it's presenting a perspective that might not match your experience, but it'll make you think about your experience. You know what I mean? And think about
Mm,
your life. It's supposed to present something that isn't recognizable, that is recognizable. You know, I think that's why people love fantasy stuff. You know, so people love Lord of the Rings and everything. It's like, yeah, we ain't took a fucking magic ring to the top of a fiery volcano, but we've all had a struggle we've had to fucking get through. You know what I mean? And we've all felt
sure.
like the small thing in the big world and all that sort of stuff. And it's like it's these conceptual things that what is what relate. And I think that's the to me, like me again, you're saying pretentious. I'm not saying pretentious, but like I think art is the only positive contribution from humans. You know what I mean, to the world. You know what I mean. And you could say love or whatever. You know what I mean. We love each other, but as to the world, like a contribution to the world, is the only good thing we've done is create art. Because the only thing it is us think art is just us thinking outwardly about being alive, isn't it? You know, we was talking about something else again. I'm going really pretentious now, but this
No, go ahead. I like it.
I can't remember who it was with, but we had an interview. We spoke about the cave painting, you know,
Mm,
the very first paintings discovered, and it's like all it is someone going figuring out how to do something, the craft side of it, and just express. They're going, you know, that someone's done that, and then they've gathered around, looked at it, and he's gone, look, that's you, that's the cow, that's me, and that's what we do, isn't it? On in this world, and it's like, yeah, that is what we do, and
mm.
like, it's just more and more of that, and no one has any answers to anything really. So I think that is the main reason art exists, really, is to think about life and try and make any sort of sense of it. Obviously, arts for years and years now has been an industry, so
Unfortunately.
yeah, art industry doesn't necessarily do that thing. It's about trends and branding and stuff, but if it's doing its job properly, it's just about thinking about being human, I suppose.
I think that's a beautiful place to end the interview. So, John, thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you, Robin. Thanks for having me, man. That was a great chat, mate. Thank you.